Amazon is one of the biggest companies in the world. It's worth trillions of dollars, they make hundreds of billions of dollars a year in profit, and the founder is the second richest man on the planet. And I'm sure that everyone watching this video uses Amazon frequently. And I'm right there with you, don't get me wrong. But Amazon didn't get to this point of success without making some unethical and questionable decisions at best. From dangerous and exploitative labor conditions and extreme hesitance to unionize here in the US, to allegedly working with companies in China that used forced labor, their major impact on destroying the environment, being accused of, quote, aggressive tax avoidance, and much more. But first, let's talk about how we got here. On July 5th, 1994, 30-year-old Jeff Bezos decided to leave his job at an investment firm to launch Amazon from his garage. Reportedly, his parents loaned him $250,000 to start his company. About a year later, Amazon launched as an online book marketplace, and it was immediately very successful. Within the first 2 months after the launch, sales were up to $20,000 a week, and they were available in 45 different countries. At the time, a bookstore like this was revolutionary, and their widespread availability was unheard of. But from the start, Jeff had hopes to expand Amazon much past selling books, saying he wanted it to be, quote, the everything store. Only 2 years after the launch of Amazon, they went public, meaning that shareholders could now invest in the company and give them funds to grow exponentially. Right after they went public, Jeff Bezos wrote a letter to shareholders, urging them to stay in it for the long term because he had a vision and he just needed shareholders to trust him on it. Fast forward to 1999, and they released the Amazon Marketplace. This allowed third parties to sell products on Amazon, which basically turned it into what we know it as today. A seemingly infinite number of different products, from clothes to couches to cameras and much more, all from millions of different sellers all across the world. This business model of allowing third parties to sell on their platform let Amazon get to their goal of being the everything store without having to do the hard work to get there and being able to save a lot of money in the process. They didn't have to worry about developing, designing, and manufacturing these products. They just had to worry about getting those products to your front door. Despite those savings, though, at this point, Amazon was not making a profit. However, this was on purpose. Their strategy was to purposefully lose money to gain market share and a massive user base. Then over time, they could start to maximize for profit. While this strategy was a bit risky at the start, it ended up paying off big time. Now, okay, I know it sounds like I'm glazing Amazon's brilliance so far in this video, but that's not what I'm here to do. This company is, in my opinion, very harmful and manipulative. One of the early signs of this is ever since the beginning of Amazon, customer data was very crucial to their business. In fact, one of Amazon's key principles is literally called customer obsession. They quite literally obsess over the user's actions so closely, make an algorithm as addicting and as personal as possible. They describe this as an attempt to, quote, earn and keep the customer's trust, but I would call it manipulating people into spending a lot more money than they need to or would have otherwise. And as they developed more and more products later down the line, this customer obsession began to become increasingly more and more dystopian. For example, in 2014, the Amazon Echo was released. This was a sleek speaker which had a built-in smart assistant named Alexa. You could ask Alexa to set a timer, play music, and answer any question you had. This, again, was something revolutionary at the time and sparked an entire industry around smart home speakers. However, a lot of people were swiftly skeptical of this product. And while some of it's definitely a little bit irrational, I see why. I mean, here you have this company that is openly, quote unquote, obsessed with the customer, saying, hey, you want to pay $50 to put a microphone in your house that we can listen to you through? I understand where the skepticism comes from, is all I'm saying. It became even more worrying when it came out that Amazon had thousands of employees listening to the Amazon Alexa recordings. Now, the purpose of this was so they could annotate them and correct what Alexa thought they heard based on what was actually said to the Alexa, so that they could better develop the Alexa and the way that it understands what we say to it. But regardless of that, this was a massive privacy concern that was not properly communicated to the consumer. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Amazon took deliberate steps to conceal this information, allegedly. The reason I say this is because many of these employees claimed to have signed NDAs, which means they're not supposed to talk out about it, which why would they do that unless they were trying to hide it, right? That's my personal opinion and not an accusation that I'm making against Amazon. After the story broke, Amazon made features that let you opt out of this, but regardless, it shows their lack of respect for your privacy and their need to improve products and expand profitability at any cost. Another concern I have about Amazon is the M word, monopoly. Since Amazon was really early to the e-commerce scene, especially in regards to books, they had what some would describe as the power of a monopoly, allegedly. There's many stories of authors authors that were selling their books on Amazon, explaining that while they had their books being sold in a lot of different places, Amazon was by far the majority of their sales. And Amazon took advantage of this power. They would reportedly pressure publishers to add more royalties on top of their already agreed upon contract by threatening to divert traffic from the author's books or removing the book entirely from Amazon, which would be catastrophic to these authors. Jeff Bezos was even quoted saying that Amazon should approach these small publishers the way a cheetah would pursue a sickly gazelle, which he claimed was a joke, but it's honestly not really an exaggeration to what they were trying to do here.
When Dennis Johnson still refused to give in to Amazon's terms, he says the buy button on all Melville House books suddenly disappeared, making it impossible for customers to purchase them on Amazon.
I mean, this is the company that referred to little publishers like me as wounded gazelles, I believe. That's how they think. That's how he thought from the beginning. And we eventually had to pay what at the time I called the bribe.
Has Amazon been good for your business?
Well, absolutely they have. Any bookseller that sells our books is good for our business. So I'm not complaining that Amazon is selling our books. I'm just complaining of the way that their tactics are hurting the industry I love.
Amazon paved the way in online shopping, and it's completely changed how we approach shopping today. However, they have exploited this revolutionary vision to hurt the little guys time after time. This is just one of the first signs of Amazon using this power to maximize profits going forward at any cost. In 2005, they launched Amazon Prime, which said that for only $5 a month, you could get your packages to your house within 2 days with free shipping. This was awesome, and quickly became widely adopted by millions of people. I mean, come on, it was a no-brainer, right? Not only was this awesome for the user, but it was also phenomenally successful at customer retention and increasing sales for Amazon. If you're paying monthly for Prime, you're probably a lot more likely to buy more things from Prime to get the value out of your membership. And you're a lot less likely to go shop somewhere else when you're paying monthly for Prime, because if you shop over here, you're not gonna get free shipping. So it sounds like a win-win, right? On the surface, yeah, totally. But the development and release of Amazon Prime also sparked a lot of bad, in my opinion. This is also a moment in Amazon history that I see as one of the most important at turning it into what we know it as today, the good and the bad. You see, Prime, it promised a lot, and they couldn't keep just doing business as usual to make this work. They now had to deliver millions of packages within 2 days after they were ordered across the entire United States. This led to a lot of Amazon warehouses popping up all over the place. And this also led to Amazon implementing policies that made things more efficient for time. Why is this a bad thing, you might be asking? Sounds like they're creating jobs and making their business more efficient. Well, the problem is that this time constraint, while yes, making it more efficient for time, doesn't make it more efficient packaging wise. Let's say you go on Amazon and you buy a book, right? And then the next day you go back on Amazon and you buy a mouse pad. Now, before Amazon Prime launched, they would have shipped both of those things in the same box. But now that they're maximizing for time and they have to get it to you within 2 days, they're going to be shipping them in separate boxes because they've already started packaging and shipping the book from yesterday. And this practice, while very convenient, leads to significantly more waste from Amazon. This is true even today. You'll notice if you buy a few different things on Amazon at once that it asks you if you want the fast option or the fewer boxes option. And while it might be convenient to click the faster delivery option, especially considering there's no cost to you if you're an Amazon Prime member, you end up creating so much more waste that way. In fact, in 2020, Oceana estimated that Amazon's plastic packaging waste load totaled 599 million pounds, which is the equivalent of dumping a delivery van's payload of plastic directly into the ocean every 67 minutes all year. That's also not to mention that when Amazon released Prime and started having to maximize time efficiency and expand like crazy, that led to a lot more delivery trucks, which leads to a significantly higher carbon emission, to the point where in 2020, Amazon produced an estimated 60 million metric tons. My point here is that while Amazon Prime seems to be maybe too good to be true, that's kind of because it is. Yes, it's worth the money in my opinion, and you do get what you pay for. But that shipping, isn't free. It comes at a major cost to the environment. And at times when the global temperatures are rising undeniably, and we have historical once-in-a-lifetime weather events happening every couple of months at this point, this is something we really need to be more conscious of. The other problem with Amazon's massive expansion after the release of Prime was the labor conditions in the warehouses. Since again, they had a massive promise to deliver on, and now that they were actually profitable, they didn't want to risk losing that and reporting bad earnings. The employees in the warehouses were very overworked. In 2011, Amazon warehouse workers came out claiming that they were not only overworked, but they were forced to work in extreme temperatures, saying that the warehouse temperature exceeded 110 degrees Fahrenheit at times. 15 workers allegedly collapsed from the heat, and one employee was quoted saying, "I've never worked for an employer that had paramedics waiting outside for people to drop because of the extreme heat." And while these concerns were brought up to OSHA and Amazon did implement some tiny little things to make it slightly better, according to the employees, that was not enough. Another employee was quoted saying, "I don't know how they can treat people this way. I think the faster you work, the bigger the raise they get, and they're just benefiting themselves and not caring about people. I used to shop at Amazon all the time. I will never shop at Amazon again." Now, it would be one thing if this happened and going forward, Amazon had a great record in terms of labor, but that's not the case in the slightest bit. Amazon is notorious for being anti-union and having some of the most horrendous labor conditions out there. In 2018, a training video for management at Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon, leaked, and this video is fucking crazy. It basically is a training video that tries to explain to managers how to shut down any attempt at organizing or unionization among the employees.
We're excited to have you at this training, specifically designed to give you the tools that you need for success when it comes to labor organizing. During this course, we'll cover several important topics, such as our position on unions, associate rights, signs of employee disengagement, and how to identify, escalate, and address associate concerns.
This video is actually fucking disgusting to me. They try to insist that they aren't anti-union, but then they say, "Oh, but we're definitely not neutral either."
We are not anti-union, but we are not neutral either.
It's like, okay, so which one is it? You're not pro-union, I can tell you that fucking much. You said you're not anti-union, but you're not neutral union. You know it's gotta be one of those, right?
We do not believe unions are in the best interest of our customers, our shareholders, or most importantly, our associates.
They also tell the management to look out for phrases like this.
The most obvious signs would include use of words associated with unions or union-led movements like living wage or steward.
Like, bro, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? I'm losing my mind right now. Trying to demonize words like living wage and representation is fucking crazy. They try to claim in the video that unions will hinder their business model of, quote, speed, innovation, and customer obsession.
Our business model is built upon speed, innovation, and customer obsession, things that are generally not associated with unions. When we lose sight of those critical focus areas, we jeopardize everyone's job security.
That's literally them just saying, we don't want our employees to have basic rights, representation, and safe conditions because we want to put profits over everything else. So we want to make sure that we make as much money as humanly fucking possible. We don't really give a shit about the employees. That's what I hear when I see this. Even today, we see strikes and complaints from Amazon employees always striving for unionization, with Amazon always just shutting it down immediately and moving forward, basically completely untouched. There is, however, one Amazon warehouse which successfully unionized in 2022, which at the time sparked some hope that maybe Amazon was going to start being unionized nationally, but yeah, that didn't happen at all. Weeks later, a separate Amazon warehouse voted against unionization, and ever since then, we basically have not had any progress on that. But just because one warehouse voted against unionizing doesn't mean that the conditions got better across the board, and it doesn't mean that we should stop fighting for unionization. You also might remember that in December of 2024, Amazon drivers went on strike over the holiday rush. This was a strategically timed strike to try to hit Amazon when they really needed them the most. However, Amazon was quick to say that these strikes left Amazon's bottom line largely unaffected. Regardless, this story was really important, I think, in further understanding what Amazon puts their employees through. Or should I say, puts their non-employees through. You see, one of the striking drivers' major concerns was that they're not even considered Amazon employees. They're wearing Amazon vests, driving Amazon trucks, and delivering purely Amazon packages, but they don't work for Amazon. Amazon outsources their delivery to third-party companies. This makes it so they can basically exploit these drivers as much as they want without being labeled directly responsible.
None of the drivers actually work for Amazon. Everyone works for like a third-party company. So I was hired by a different company who is paid by Amazon. Amazon can also suspend us and have us completely fired if we're like doing our deliveries wrong or something. Like our company doesn't have a say-so with certain things, and Amazon can get rid of us. And that's crazy to me when Amazon's not even the one that's paying me.
Amazon gets to push these people to their limits, making them deliver hundreds of packages a day. They put cameras in the vehicles which monitor your every move and will yell at you if you do a minor glance in this direction for a few seconds. Some drivers even resorted to peeing in bottles so that they could deliver their packages on time. I've heard stories online, at least, of people saying like they had so many packages delivered in such a short amount of time, I guess, and so they were saying they're almost forced to pee in bottles on the road. Have you ever had to do that, or?
Yeah.
You have?
Honestly, okay, wait. I'll be honest. You don't have to do that. They understand, at least for the 2 different companies I worked for, they'd understand if we went to the bathroom. But for time reasons, I would still just do it anyways. Because it is a pretty time intensive job. Like you have to keep going all day, and to go to the bathroom and come back, it's just a bit too long and annoying. So I was like, I'll deal with the water bottle situation.
Okay, there you go. I've also heard people talk about how like the cameras are like always watching you in the vehicle.
That's the worst thing ever, man. Because it affects the whole company if you get hit with something. And sometimes you'll get hit with distracted driving if you're like just looking out the window for a couple seconds while you're driving. Like if someone just catches your eye randomly, I know it's not safe, but like if someone just catches your eyes and you look, just a glance, it'll hit you with like unsafe driving. Sometimes it'll hit you with not coming to a complete stop at stop signs, even though you did come to a complete stop. So sometimes it's just completely off. Pretty annoying having. Every time you hear it, man, you just get pissed off. You're just like, man, I'm driving safe, man. And then the bosses are gonna complain to me later about how I'm ruining the company, and I'm like, bro, I did one minor thing. It's just weird knowing that like everything you do, there's just a camera constantly on you all day. It's not a great feeling, but you learn to live with it.
What would you say the overall experience was working there?
It was all right. I like the physicalness of it, but at the same time, you don't get paid enough for that much. I'm a pretty young guy, and dude, I was genuinely having like back problems, and I'm only getting paid $21.50 an hour to have back problems at 22 years old. Like that's crazy. So it was a pretty intense job, but it's doable. But the pay just wasn't quite right, I feel like.
Gotcha. All of this exploitation and manipulation being done by Amazon directly to these drivers, but Amazon can still claim that it's not their job to enforce fair labor for these employees. They even said in reference to the recent strikes, quote, "What you see here are almost entirely outsiders, not Amazon employees or partners, and the suggestion otherwise is just another lie from the Teamsters. These workers' conditions are controlled by Amazon. Who the fuck are we talking about here? The concerns that these drivers are expressing are things that Amazon directly implemented, and Amazon trying to insist otherwise is purely a way to protect their own ass while not giving their fucking delivery drivers, I don't know, basic worker rights." And while we're on the topic of worker rights, it's certainly worth mentioning that there's been credible allegations of Amazon suppliers being linked to Chinese forced labor. Amazon claims that their suppliers, quote, "must not use forced labor," and that it, quote, "does not tolerate suppliers that traffic workers or in any other way exploit workers by means of threat, force, coercion, abduction, or fraud. Only we get to exploit workers. If you do it by fraud or coercion or force, that's too far." Even though they say that, this report from 2022 alleges that they might not always practice what they preach. Their public supplier list contained 5 different companies that were linked to forced labor in China. You see, there's this region in China called Xinjiang. Hopefully I'm saying that right, which is notorious for subjecting minority groups, predominantly Muslims, to genocide, state-imposed forced labor, and crimes against humanity. According to the US Department of Labor, these minorities are forced to labor in factories and camps and, quote, "receive very little pay, are not allowed to leave, and have limited or no communication with family members. If family communication and visits are allowed, they are heavily monitored and can be cut short. When not working, the Uyghur workers must learn Mandarin and undergo ideological indoctrination." These are obviously horrendous and tragic working conditions that are totally unacceptable. And these 5 suppliers that Amazon was being criticized for being associated with were linked to this forced labor in these camps and factories, 3 of which were reported to directly use forced labor, and the other two reportedly purchasing goods from those factories implicated in the forced labor. These suppliers helped create products sold by Amazon under the label of Amazon Basics. Amazon spokesperson Erica Reynoso said, quote, Amazon complies with laws and regulations in all jurisdictions in which it operates and expects suppliers to adhere to our supply chain standards. We take allegations of human rights abuses seriously, including those related to the use of export of forced labor. Whenever we find or receive proof of forced labor, we take action. You can certainly choose to believe them if you'd like to. However, in my opinion, if this was true, they would not have waited until they were publicly criticized for this to take action on these suppliers. This wasn't breaking news that these suppliers were linked to this forced labor. There was a well-documented history of this taking place, and Amazon, in my opinion, seemingly chose to ignore that until they faced public scrutiny for their actions. You would think, I don't know, Amazon did just a little bit of research before blindly trusting these suppliers. I'm certainly not making any concrete accusations here, but I'm just saying, to me, it seems a little bit dishonest, and I don't feel confident that if they hadn't faced public scrutiny, that they would have done anything about this. The report also explains how there are many instances of third-party sellers on Amazon sourcing cotton from the Xinjiang region. In some cases, even directly promoting this aspect. And while these products are being sold on Amazon, and Amazon is directly profiting from those products, since it's a third party making and selling these products, they have some leeway here yet again. This isn't just in terms of forced labor either. If Amazon has a product on their site that is faulty, false advertised, or dangerous, or produced with forced labor, in most cases, Amazon is not responsible for that, despite, again, them directly profiting from the sale of that product. While Amazon, of course, claims to do their best to remove bad or dangerous and immorally produced products, you gotta understand that they are at the very least incentivized to not really give a shit what goes up on their platform. It's not really legally their problem at the end of the day. And the more products on their site and the more that these products are sold, the more money they make. There's no denying that they're incentivized to let it fly. Whether or not you think they take advantage of that incentive is up to you. Personally, I don't really see a world where they don't, okay? We're talking about a fucking trillion-dollar corporation here. You think they're just gonna be like, oh, wait a minute, that's immoral. We should definitely not do that. Let's take every step. I don't care if it hurts our profitability. Let's take every step to remove this thing because that's immoral. They're not doing that, all right? I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's not how capitalism works. You also got to think about this double standard here. If you go into Walmart and you buy a product that ends up exploding or being dangerous or faulty, Walmart is liable for that. They should not have been selling you this product if it was dangerous or falsely advertised. And it's on them as well as the developer of the product. However, since Amazon is online and you sign their terms of service when you sign up for an account, you basically sign away Amazon's responsibility to guarantee products are properly advertised and safe to use. After Prime launched in 2005, Amazon grew to unprecedented heights of success. Today being, as I mentioned in the intro, one of the biggest companies in the world. They've gone from a company that was completely unprofitable 25 years ago to today making $270 billion in profit in the year 2023 alone. And while I have my issues with Amazon, they did do some genuinely innovative and awesome things to get to where they are. And I don't want to take that away from them. They built an online store where you can get almost anything you want delivered to your house within a couple days with free shipping. That is actually genuinely so sick. It is so cool that we have the privilege to use that. They also created an entire industry with the Alexa, which has created technology that has genuinely changed the way that a lot of people go about their day. They also changed the game in terms of e-readers with the Kindle. They've done some really awesome stuff with Ring cameras, Twitch, and Whole Foods. And there is much, much more that Amazon has done that is genuinely cool and innovative and cultivated the world we live in today. And I also want to be clear here. I'm not on my moral high ground saying I've never used Amazon before. I use Amazon all the fucking time. It's actually kind of an addiction and a problem that I'm working on. I mean, it's just so convenient. You can get anything you need to get for a decent price fairly quickly while not having to hardly even lift a finger and click a button a couple times. I cannot stress enough how convenient and awesome this is. However, I do think that we are a little too spoiled today and we don't often think about the consequences of what we're doing when we use this convenient technology. And I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not just telling you you're doing bad, okay? I want to make that very clear as well. Personally, Amazon is a problem for me. And not only does me spending my money on Amazon directly go and fund some really gross business practices that I don't stand behind, but it also leads to me spending and buying a lot more shit than I really need to. I'm not making this video to tell you to never use Amazon again, and hell, I'm not even making this video to say that I'm never gonna use it again either, but I'm making it because I genuinely do believe that this company has a lot of scummy and manipulative qualities. And I didn't even touch the millions of dollars they spend in lobbying to get the government in their back pocket, the sketchy return system, the worryingly low amount they pay in taxes despite their insane profits, or their scary amount of power being a borderline monopoly, which are all insane and definitely worth talking about, but I just don't have the time in this video to do that. All that being said, I think it's unrealistic to expect you and me to just go cold turkey and just stop using Amazon altogether. That might also just be my addiction talking. However, we should definitely be more conscious of not only what we're funding, but how much we're funding it. And that goes for not only Amazon. That also goes for every corporation that we support. If you know for a fact that what you're about to buy on Amazon is going to go to some not great working conditions and questionable business practices at best, as well as it literally being at the store 5 minutes down the road, resist the urge and go fucking drive there and buy it, okay? And this is kind of me speaking to myself here, but I'm sure some people can relate to that. Every now and then, I think it's totally fine. And if there's a certain product that you can't find, or you just don't have the time to go shopping for it right now, let's be real here, the majority of our Amazon purchases could easily be bought at a brick and mortar store, and or just is something we just don't need at all. I swear I've gone through this exact thought process about 1,000,000 times. I wonder if I could get a product like this. Here, let me check Amazon. Oh, there it is. All right, it'll be your Tuesday. It seriously goes that quick. This is, again, super convenient and awesome, but if I didn't have Amazon, 9 times out of 10, I would go, you know, I don't really need this right now, or maybe I should search around a little bit more to make sure I'm getting the best product for the best price. So in conclusion, while I'm not asking you to entirely stop using Amazon, I am asking you to try to be more aware of what you're funding when you do use it, and try to think twice about what you're buying and its impact on the workers, which are not treated great, the potential of forced labor, the environmental impact, especially with expedited shipping, and also just whether or not you really need that product to begin with. I think it's also important to be vocal about these concerns with companies like Amazon, because for the most part, these massive companies are going to keep doing these immoral things unless there is legislation that is passed that makes it so they can't do it anymore. And our government will not pass the necessary legislation to protect the environment and protect the workers unless the public cares about it. At the end of the day, it's out of our control what Amazon does. But what is in our control is how much we use their products, or whether or not we pressure our representatives and government to care about these things. It's also in our control to protest and strike for better conditions and policies. We may not be able to fix this problem overnight by any means, but we just have to try our best. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe and check out this video next. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, see you guys later.